And we welcome you to the final. This is overtime of the Ottawa Senators season as the Carolina Hurricanes defeat the Ottawa Senators by a score of 4-2. Lever Sage, Zach McGibbon, who is joining us on, I was going to say the phone. He's looking good. He's getting ready for another event, but he wouldn't miss this is overtime for anything. Do want your feedback. We are going to go through so much. Not only this game had a ton of things to talk about in game number 4, but it also will be a little bit of a post Ottawa Senators season look back, a moratorium maybe, looking back on the season that was here for the Ottawa Senators and maybe, just maybe, what will be needed going forward. Zach, thanks for joining us sort of on location here for a little bit. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Lever. I got inspired by Tanner on the last time we did one of those This Is Overtime shows, and I'm like, you know what? I could do something like that. So here I am. I don't have the ability to just jump right into the stream. You had to accept me, of course, and you had to say, yep, no, you're allowed on here. But no, I'm here. I'm outside the Quinny Curling Club. I'm getting ready to call boxing get set for boxing anyways in the next 20 minutes. But I figured since I saw what I saw, what you saw, I figured I'd jump in and give my thoughts on that final game of the Sens season.
The Carolina Hurricanes sweep the Ottawa Senators. Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, no goals in this series. None. Zero. Nada. Nil. Just a whole lot of nothing from them. But what a second period, starting from the hit from Tyler Clevin. Ridley Gregg certainly getting involved with the goaltender penalty, and then the sucker punch that never got called. And one of the more entertaining periods of playoff hockey that I've ever watched. It was insane, like all the things that were happening. But one of the things that came from all of the excitement, and this is where I hope people kind of focus in on, 1 for 9 on the power play, 3 5-on-3s that they didn't score on. And Zach, 27 shots in the entire game when you have 9 power plays and 3 5-on-3s. Are you kidding me? And just look, like, very easily, folks. I know if you're a Sens fan, you're disappointed right now in the way that the last couple of months they went into it, but they're the second best team in the series by a long way. And if you don't think so, you're wrong. And it just means that they have a long way to go. But I mean, the story of this game, with all the excitement and all the crazy things that happened, were the fact that Ottawa could not capitalize or even look like they really knew what they were doing on the power play.
I think it was practically stunning that they even were able to get 1 goal on the power play this game, the way that they were going at it. Yeah, it was just the power plays weren't exactly like the 5-on-3 of the game 3 game might have been the most infuriating bit of hockey I've seen the Sens play all year.
Yeah.
This was more, I thought it's weird to say because I thought there was at least some form of a strategy during the power play. They just couldn't shoot. There would be, how many times did you look up on the little ticker on top on the Sportsnet broadcast, be 0 shots on this power play or 1 shot on this power play?
And again, not to cut you off, but to that point exactly, with about 2 power plays left, I think it was after the 7th one, regardless, they flashed up a graphic that said the Carolina Hurricanes penalty kill is 17 for 17, and they had given up 17 shots. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like 1 shot every power play for 17 power plays? Come on. Like with 4 5-on-3s, 4 in the series. Let's get to some of your feedback. Marlboro Man is in and says, pretty simple. big guys disappeared when it mattered. Power play coach made absolutely zero changes. They tried the same play every time, tried to carry the puck with 4 guys standing still. And he wants to add that our goalie and PK were great. And our buddy, and I appreciate this, Tanner, trying to hold his spot down because Zach's coming in from the Quinny Curling Club. So
That's right.
Tanner's got to get in from Mont Tremblant and says, if this series told me anything, it's that they're not even close to a contender. And look, if we want to talk about this game and kind of where Ottawa's fight was in this game as opposed to where it was in the rest of the series, we can talk about the Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle just absent from the score sheet, which you're just not going to win when those guys do that. And then the big picture stuff like Tanner's bringing up. I'm trying to look at it objectively, but I completely agree with Tanner that this team is a long way from being a true contender. They played some great hockey down the stretch, and they showed teams that they are like a really good team when they play at their best. But right now, they don't have another level. And when you go up against the Carolina Hurricanes, and Tanner's in again and says not a single category they were better than the Canes in. Right? Like,
yep.
I'm trying to think of one. Like, what were they? Like, Linus Ullmark was really good, but Freddie Anderson did what he had to do too. Like, he played well.
Yep.
Yeah, Ben says face-offs. Hey, Contrarian, and I'm sorry, Ben's probably not feeling very good because he'll try and explain away why his team got swept out of the first round of the playoffs and tell you that they're not actually that bad. His response to the face-offs part, though, they were really good in face-offs until every face-off that mattered.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to leave it. I don't care what the numbers tell you. They even broke it down on the first period intermission where it's like every 5-on-3, you just can't get beat off the face-off like that and have it get sent down.
Yeah.
I won't put the next one that Ben put up. I don't think you can see them, Zach.
I can't see it, so I will just leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah, Ben said a bad word. He's heated right now. I get it.
I understand. I mean, look, if you're a Sens fan and you watch this series, like especially that second period, if you're a Sens fan, you're thinking, where was this second period energy throughout the entirety of the series period?
Where was this energy?
Yes.
If you were going to beat the Carolina Hurricanes, you needed to play like that the entire time.
Yep. And for a time, in that second period, it was like, wow, this is something that we hadn't seen from the Sens before. And you mentioned too, you had the Clevin hit that kind of set the tone for that. And yes, it seemed like, okay, they're building off of this. They're doing good stuff with it, but then they let in the goal there from Taylor Hall, and then they were able to come back with the power play goal, which again, I think is nothing short of a miracle considering how the power play was this series. But that sort of energy, it's like, why wasn't this kind of tone that was set from game one in Carolina, other than obviously the opening face-off between Stahl and Tkachuk?
Right.
Where was this for the remainder of that game one, that game two in Carolina? And you set that tone instead of letting Carolina. We know with Carolina, they're a team that they like to set their pace and they play to it. They did it all series long. And so why not play the way that you guys played in the second period all throughout the series?
It's difficult to understand how that happened. There's a lot to digest, right? There's a ton to digest in this series because Ottawa was not that bad. They just don't have another level, and it begs the question of where guys are going to go now. Some of the Linus Ullmark was their best player. In almost after the first goal of the first game, he was their best player, all series long. And then after that, I'm trying to think of, like, Thomas Chabot was really good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Chabot played well, and I thought Clevin played well too, considering the circumstances. I felt like there were more players that I recognized this game than I did in game 3, especially on the defensive side. Giroux had a lot of shots on net from what I saw. Like, Giroux started shooting the puck a lot more.
I couldn't believe how many they put up. He was like 6 for 6.
Yeah.
Or like he had 6 shots and 6 attempted shots. So he didn't even miss the net. I'm trying to look at what he finished with here in the game. Yeah, he had 7 attempts with 6 shots recorded, which if Claude Giroux's leading your team, it's kind of odd.
Yep.
But he was on a lot of the power plays too, and it was good that he was shooting the puck on the power plays.
Yep.
But man, this was one of those games that showed you what they could do if they, I don't want to say if they wanted, because you can't win every game, even if you play like that. But it sure looked like if they played that way earlier, they would have had a much better chance in the series. Is that fair?
I think that's totally fair. We might not even be talking about a sweep at that point if they played with this energy. I mean, again, we talked about it on the pregame show, but you have the way that Allmark's been playing, and you compare it with some of the other goaltenders in the playoffs right now. Allmark coming into the game was 0-3. Well, a bunch of other goaltenders with similar stats with the, 930 save percentage and around 2 goals against average, a little higher than 2 goals against average. A lot of those goalies are getting, their teams are leading their respective series 3-0. So if the Sens had played with that sort of energy, and obviously that sort of energy can also be a bit tough to maintain, just being all physical all the time. But if there was some semblance of that, more of that in the earlier part of the series, I don't think we're sitting here today and talking about a sweep of the Ottawa Senators. I think this is very much a series that would still be alive.
Tanner says Batherson had 3 of the 4 goals in the series, despite many naming him the worst player in the series last year, us includedly. Yep. You know what? Batherson was at least carrying, some of the fact that Batherson and Cousins, they're the only 2 who actually scored in the series. Is that true?
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure it's only Batherson and Cousins that scored all series long for the Sens.
Think about that. That's actually that's crazy. That only Batherson and Dylan Cousins scored. Dylan Cousins' goal is probably not as meaningful as the Batherson ones. That's the 2 guys scored all series long. I mean, you just can't win.
No.
When it comes to that.
Yeah. And look, you're going to have people also mention the injuries as well, losing Zub and then losing Sanderson. So losing a top pairing D-core is also going to play a factor in how your team's going to do. But even then, wasn't like they were out to lunch. It wasn't like Carolina won 7-1s, like, oh, well, that's because of a depleted D-core. They were still very much I shouldn't say they were very much in it. It just wasn't as much of a, on the score sheet, it wasn't like they were getting obliterated.
I think even a better way to put it would be if you told people before the series that Jake Sanderson was going to come in and he was hurt, but he was going to be there, and then he got hurt in the middle of the series. And then Thomas Chabot came in and was hurt and had a broken arm and rushed back for the series. And Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle don't score or do anything in the series. Is the 8 seed going to beat the 1 seed? Well, no, of course not.
No. And you could, again, with Clevin's play, I thought it was solid, but you could, I guess, make an argument too that he was still coming off of the broken jaw injury too, with the mask and all that. So,
yeah, I mean, it was on Nikishin. What a hit from Tyler Clevin. All right, that's the type of play that he needs to continue to do to be a difference maker on the Ottawa Senators in years to come.
And another playoff series with Clevin where I think people took note that, that's a guy that steps up in the playoffs in terms of his contributions when he's out on the ice. Like I thought he was one of the big factors for the Sens, one of the players that you recognized when he was out there. So obviously with the hit, of course, but even then, some of his playmaking, I thought. So
James is in and says, is this part of the maturing process? Problem is the winning window is narrow. Is there time to figure that out? Other problem is that the prospect well is not full. The offseason will be telling. There's a lot in there, and I think PJ brings some of that up where he says, hi, PJ Northcore here. There a chance Brady leaves? I think so. I think something's going on in the locker room. So yeah, those are a couple of different discussions about the kind of window that this team is in. Look, they're still a very young group. If you go through their big stars, and I say this like supposedly big stars with Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stutz. So they are, we know that they just didn't contribute in the series.
Yes.
Sanderson. I mean, Chabot he's a 15, so he's probably late 20s, 29, somewhere around there. None of the group is really old. Like the core guys. Like if you were to say, who are their best 5 players, it's Jake Sanderson and Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk and Thomas Chabot and maybe Drake Batherson. And after that, Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto. This is not an old core, but there's going to be a lot of conversations about what to do to take the next step. So to answer James's first question, is it part of the maturing process? I don't think so. What I think is part of the maturing process is understanding that this whole season could have been different. And if we take a proper perspective back, and you, Zach, just make sure that you say that you need to go when you need to go. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'll give a warning.
Okay. Is that if they got decent goaltending or average goaltending, where would they be? Not in the spot where they'd be facing Carolina, probably in the first round. And then if they still went out like they have gone out now, it would be a bit of a different discussion because of the way that they played all year. But they had to battle through a lot of adversity with their goaltending being as bad as it was in the first half of the year. And then with injuries to Sanderson and Chabot, they had to keep going and found a way. So that's part of the maturing process. I don't think losing in 4 straight after losing the first 3 games against the Leafs and coming back and forcing a 6th game, I don't think this helps the maturing process. I mean, you could individually argue for Clevin, for Yakimchuk getting in the lineup. But no, I don't think it's just part of that process. There were some star players that didn't play well in this series and got outplayed by guys on the other team. So, so I don't think the window is narrowing, but they are going to have to make some decisions. And one of those big decisions will be Brady. Another one come July 1st will be Drake Batherson. Like, do you offer Drake Batherson a big contract July 1st and keep him a part of the core? His numbers are going to say that he's probably around an $8 million guy. But like, do you pay him $8 million? Is that a guy with 1 year left that you end up dealing to get some more things back? Because as Tanner says, everyone but Sanderson and Stützle are available. Get Timmy a dynamic winger ASAP. And Zach, I think that's a fair discussion when it comes to how many untouchables are there on this team. I happen to agree with Tanner in that there's 2, but maybe people have other opinions on that.
No, I'm in line with that too. I think Stützle and Sanderson are certainly the untouchables. I think everybody else you could take a look at and say, okay, what are their contributions going to be in the years coming, in the years to come? I think especially this season, if you were somebody, I think in years past, you would say Brady Tkachuk would be part of that. But after this season, I think there's been a lot of questions and people saying, oh, maybe, you start to entertain some offers here, and you kind of entertain the idea of maybe moving on from Brady Tkachuk. But no, I agree with that. I do wonder if Yakimchuk develops to a point where he could get into that tier, but right now he would certainly be somebody that I would be also like, he's teetering, but he's obviously not right there yet. I still want to see more from him.
Well, Skuse wants more of you. So Zach, get me a McDouble.
Well, fortunately can't do that. I'm well out of that range. Unfortunately.
Julian, the team is simply not close to being a contender, maybe a playoff team, but with no improvements at all, Ottawa will begin to stagnate if they haven't already.
Yeah.
And Tanner already looking back, reminiscing, sure would have been nice to not blow 3 first-round picks on Chychrun, DeBrincat, and Boucher. Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, they still went into a draft too and got Stützle and Sanderson in the draft and got Ridley Gregg and got Pinto in the second round in one of those drafts. So, look, they're going to miss on some. I mean, I don't disagree with... I actually do disagree on the Chychrun one. I wish that... I think the Chychrun move was a decent move if they did enough to kind of surround him and not let him. It seemed, and this is a bit of speculation, but it just seemed from everyone that was around the team that Jacob Chychrun didn't get along with some of the other guys.
Right.
And it's like you wish that had have gone better on both ends to make him a bigger part of the team, because he's clearly performing very, very well when he left. But the DeBrincat and Boucher ones, yeah, I mean, they're not great. But going back to Julian's point, they are a playoff team with the way that they play, but they do need improvements. They have to improve. And I think there are areas to do that, right? Like Tanner talked about the winger with Timmy Stützle. There are, that right shot D that I still think that they need. And, with everybody healthy back, I think Jordan Spence took a massive leap this year. I think Tyler Clevin will be like a really, I think he's a pretty good third pairing guy next year with everybody healthy around him. And then you start to go into can Yakimchuk be the other guy with him? Maybe, because he does bring some elements to a team that they don't have. And you start to look at their defense. To me, I think their defense improved a lot this year with the situations that they had to be in, with the the Spences and the Matt and Palos and the Clevins and those guys stepping up to play minutes that they never would have dreamed playing. So that will help them, but I still think they need a right shot D. They certainly need some insulation and goal. That would be a high priority to go out and see what they're going to do. Like Linus Ullmark is a full. Did he win everybody back in 3 hockey games, or maybe 4 hockey games? Did he win everybody back?
I think he's bought himself some time. I'll say this because I will have to head out here in a moment, but I'll say this just in terms of roster construction and all that. I agree with you. I think you absolutely need a much more higher upside winner alongside Stützle, because I think it's pretty clear Stützle's not the goal scorer. He is the guy, he can score goals, obviously, but I think he needs somebody there that can help. He doesn't have to be the all-in-one sort of guy. A good defenseman on that, a good right shot defenseman, as you mentioned. They're hoping that will be Yakimchuk, that can be a guy that can be elevated. And of course, somebody that could be, I think it's clear with Ullmark, he's not somebody that's going to take a heavy, to steal an NFL term for running backs, bell cow goaltender. I think they need another, goalie, a 1B sort of scenario when it comes to their roster construction. So that's how I kind of look at with the roster. And obviously there's a lot that can be done for that, but that's, I think it's fair to say those are the things that they'll have to look at in the offseason.
What's your knockout call?
Oh man, I gotta save it. My voice has been all scraggly this week, so I won't spoil it for you on the broadcast. I'll save it for the highlights and I'll share it on around the social media.
All right. Thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And just say quickly, it's fun doing the this is overtimes throughout the season. Obviously a tough way for it to end for Sens fans, but it's more to come for This Is OSN, of course. So
yes,
that's looking forward to that.
Always appreciate you being a part of it. So go knock him out tonight, Zach.
I will. See y'all later.
All right. There goes Zach McGibbon, who is at the he's going to call boxing tonight down in Belleville, but was there to chime in. Tanner says Yakimchuk a lot of work to do to get to that tier. Maybe start with making the NHL. Well, I think he's got a chance to make the NHL next year. I think the flashes that he has shown give him the opportunity to get some minutes that way, and then to learn on the National Hockey League level from some good coaches and playing with better players. Some guys do play better with better players. Julian says the depth needs to be improved. A pure goal scorer, very much needed. The issue, does Steos want to build a team like that? Would they thrive under such a counter-punching style? See, I think they did thrive. I think they learned about how to win games in the last couple of months. I don't think there's any question about that. That will help them a lot. So, are they going to continue like what everyone's been saying? This team needs a pure goal scorer. I think that's the word that Zach was looking for. Can Tim Stützle score goals? Yes. Can Brady Tkachuk score goals? I don't know if you hope that Drake Batherson is that pure goal scorer. He certainly has more of a chance to be able to, but they don't have a pure goal scorer. And they need one. It is crazy to me that this team went 1 for 9 on the power play tonight and only had 27 shots in the entire hockey game with 3 5-on-3s. Like that is nuts. Losing draws. They were good in the draws tonight, except for the ones that meant a lot, right? Man. Very, very difficult. So where do you start on the back end? Like, do they still need, in people's opinion, if you're listening, do they still need a top 4 right shot D? Are you going to extend Drake Batherson is another question. Or would you put him up and say, yeah, we need to change up the mix? And then it might not be this summer, but man, oh man, you're going to have to make a decision on Brady Tkachuk. If you don't think Brady is signing here, if you're the organization, do you need to go out and do something and be proactive about it? You just can't let what happened to Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs happen, because it crippled the organization by letting him do that. Julian says goaltending, very much something to be addressed. Ullmark has bought himself time, but Ottawa cannot run it back with Reimer as the backup. Marlainen is still maybe 1 or 2 years away from being ready. So totally agree with that, Julian. I think that the question then that needs to be asked is, would you consider buying out Linus Ullmark? Because if you don't, you probably have to overspend to get not just a backup, but like another pretty good goalie, like another guy that could come in and play more than what backups play. because if anything told you this season, is Ullmark a 55 start guy for sure? Like you just lock him in? I don't think he is. And the numbers for Linus Ullmark to be bought out aren't as crazy with the cap going up as you might think. It's just over $3 million next year on the cap, but then for the following 2 years, it goes down to $2.1 million before it goes back up. And by 3 or 4 years down the line, you're looking at the cap being at about $130 million in the next 4 years. So are you going to be able to bring in somebody that, like, are you going to overpay for, say, like I don't know, just picking names out of a hat here. Like Stuart Skinner will be up. Maybe his value goes down because if Philadelphia wins tonight, I know Seeloff's playing tonight for Pittsburgh. Is Stuart Skinner's value now all of a sudden down because of his playoff run here? Is another guy like the guy the Leafs, they're not going to be able to keep both. It looks like of Stolars and Wool. Would you like one of those other guys? You're going to have to overpay probably to get a guy that's more than just like a regular backup to insulate Linus Ullmark. And I think you need that. If you're going to bring back Linus Ullmark, you got to not only bring a backup, but bring a backup that has, some experience and a guy that could take over the number one job if he played well or Ullmark is not available. You have to insulate yourself. And the reason to buy Ullmark out would that be you'd be starting fresh in goal, and you might be able to bring in two guys and kind of have like, even like the Leafs just did, like a Stolars and a Wool, or you look around and it's UPL and Alex Lyon in Buffalo, or lots of places, right? Like Minnesota and Jesper Wallstedt and Philip Gustafsson. Like there's lots and even in Carolina, Freddie Anderson, a bit of a surprise starter over Brandon Bussey. So there's teams that have these two guys where you don't really know where the number one guy is, and you're kind of going with whatever guy is playing a little bit better. And to get in the net, the backup or the guy who's not playing is going to have to beat him out. And for that, does Ottawa consider buying Linus Ullmark out to get two guys in? And they're not going to be top guys, but two guys in that ilk. PJ says a guy like Carter George would be the perfect fit for Ottawa to back up Ullmark. Yeah, I'm not sure, PJ. I think they need more experience than that if they're going to keep Linus Ullmark in the position that he's in. I think they need someone a little bit more experienced and a guy that can come in and, more than just for the fans, it's really for the rest of the team to go like, we can win games with this guy. Whoever comes in, it's like, yeah, we can win. It's not, boy, I hope Merrill stops the puck tonight, or James Reimer wasn't playing before, and how could he possibly be good? And like, we're going to have to play different because James Reimer is in goal. You can't have that. Can't do it. The value of trading Brady Tkachuk is at its highest right now. It could be different going into next year. But with 2 years left on his deal, if you wanted to trade Brady or if Brady wanted out, the most value is going to be right now. It's really not unlike Austin Matthews in Toronto. Same thing. 2 years left. You'd like him, but Brady makes a lot less than Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews is a better all-around player than Brady Tkachuk, but Brady Tkachuk, you're talking about two high-level guys there. And Tkachuk relatively doesn't make that much if you wanted to bring him in for 2 years and be the star of your franchise. And for being a star of your franchise, teams would have to pay up. And I know Tanner will be very, very happy for me to say this. Porter Martone would be a guy in Philly that I would be Like if Philadelphia is one of those teams, which I happen to think that they are, then this team can be like, maybe they can go out and get another guy that's a younger guy that kind of plays not the same style. Like no one quite plays the same style as Brady Tkachuk. He's a unicorn. That's why a lot of people will want him. But I don't know. How do people feel about Brady Tkachuk? I need to hear this. How do you feel about Brady Tkachuk right now? After the season has ended, after what you've seen in the playoffs, how do you feel about Brady? Is he just a guy that you wouldn't trade and he just had a bad playoffs? Tanner says, starting to wonder if Philly wouldn't do Martone for Tkachuk. Oh, no, they would in a heartbeat. Because Martone, even though has some great upside for what he has shown so far just getting there this year, Tkachuk has shown that he has done it. And Tkachuk in the States is a franchise-changing player on and off the ice for your team. If you're Philadelphia, if you're Utah, if you're Seattle, if you're like one of those teams that's not a great team in the US, he changes the complete perception of that team. The Rangers desperately need something. Desperately. The Rangers should be calling Ottawa up every day to go, we'll give you this, 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 and this for Brady Tkachuk. Like 4, 5, 6 things. Obviously, things going very badly there, and he could totally change the perception of the New York Rangers. Tanner says Martone and Olivier Bonk and a pick is what I pitched a few months ago. I would still want more. Brady Tkachuk he's a franchise-changing player. Regardless of what people think here right now about his game, he is a guy that changes the franchise. And Julian says, I do think there needs to be conversations about Brady Tkachuk's future. He seems checked out. So is that what it is? Is that how... Is that people's perception that he looks and plays and feels a bit checked out? Maybe. It looks like something's missing. Is it him being checked out? Is it injuries? Is it just a couple of things not going well for him in this playoff run? Julian says, I mean, if there's any team he ends up on, it's probably Florida. Families there probably would want to play with his brother. Yeah, for $8 million, Florida could probably get it in, but they're tied up in a lot of big contracts. They would have to give up a ton. I mean, if you're trading him to a team in your division with his brother and everything else, you best be getting a lot back. Like, you absolutely have to be sure on what you would get back. James says the time is now for Brady to go. He's not the player he was. His skating's not going to get better. And the warts in his game will become better known. And maybe he gets a chance to reset somewhere else. So good for him. Tanner says, in brackets, I'm delusional. Give me Sam Reinhart. I don't think that's out of the question. If you're Florida, you're going to have to give up some, not only like a lot to get Brady Tkachuk, but you're also going to have to take away from, some of your cap constraints to fit Brady in. Other teams have a little bit more room to be able to do that. Is there a conversation that Brady should just stay and that the Senators should use the next 2 years to go get what they feel like they need to get to the next level and be true Stanley Cup contenders? And who cares if Brady Tkachuk's going to leave after that? Is that a discussion? Is that something that can happen? PJ says Gabe Perreault and a first and Adam Fox for Brady. And Julian says, to me, Reinhart and Lundell would be where I'd bring those conversations. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're talking Reinhart and Lundell and maybe, something else like a pick or another younger prospect, I think you're in the range because those are two very, very good players. But is there a conversation right now that the Ottawa Senators window is in the next 2 years to win with the talent that they have? So Brady should not only not be traded, but should be a cornerstone for the next 2 years, and they should be building around him to provide him with what he needs, and Tim and some of the other guys and Sanderson, because the window to win is in the next 2 years. I don't know if I believe that, but it probably is another side of the discussion. Tanner says Jason Robertson with an extension. Yeah, he's a good player. He's a great player. Just looking in on the scores of the other game. 1-1, Dallas and Minnesota at the intermission. Important game for the Minnesota Wild to be involved, for them to win and to even that series at 2. Going to be very hard for them to get 3 in a row against Dallas. So with the Brady thing, to me, it's like you either have to consider moving him to reset the foundation of your franchise, because you're going to get a ton for him if you do it this summer with 2 years left on Brady's deal at just over $8 million. That is like maximum value. Or you decide on the other way to go, like, he's part of our future. We think our window is in the next 2 years, and that's what you're doing. Because if you do that, you're probably not going to get that much for Brady when he leaves. Because assuming you're going to be in contention, you're not going to trade him, and then you'll do what the Leafs did with Marner and maybe flip him for possibly a late first round, something like that. They did with Marner, and it just didn't go well. And he's not the only one. Drake Batherson, you can talk to him July 1st, but if you don't talk to him July 1st and he goes into the year playing on the last year of his deal, you might just lose Drake Batherson. Same address, but the real Kim Moore here. Well, nice to have you as part of the broadcast, Kim. I think his experience at the Olympics has made Brady's desire to play in the U.S. greater. Now he seems checked out. Okay, so this is definitely a point I want to address with Brady and some of the other guys that won a gold medal. Winning a gold medal at the Olympics for your country over Canada in overtime, and the bond that you have with those players is like next level. Has it made it more difficult for Brady to look engaged coming back from that moment? At least the perception for me is the answer is yes. But long-term, is his desire to play in the U.S. greater now because he won? Was it just really high before because he and his wife and his baby want to be closer to family and live in the United States and play hockey and be close to his dad and his mom and his brother and his sister? And is that something that is really important to Brady? Maybe. And would anybody fault him for that? Really? Like, would you fault Brady Tkachuk for being that way? And said, look, I played in Canada for like 10 years. Michael comes in. Yeah, Canada sucks. Well, hold it, Michael, hold it. I think some people, no matter where you're from, you only have one home. And you're usually proud of the country that you live in. I don't know, Michael, where you live, but I do think that Brady will be chatting, as Tanner brings up, So Quinn Hughes has 1 year left on his deal. And what are the Minnesota Wild going to do? That's another question. Are they just holding Quinn Hughes next year and then getting nothing for him after he leaves and hoping that they can either win the Stanley Cup this year or next year? I don't think Quinn Hughes is the only one. I think, well, I mean, Austin Matthews is captain of the team. Austin Matthews has 2 years left on his deal as the captain in the Canadian market that probably wants to go back to the United States and play. At least that's the perception. So, random go Canes go. That's okay. Look, Carolina Hurricanes are the better team, folks. For Carolina fans and for Ottawa fans and everybody else. I mean, when two guys on your entire team score goals, have fun in Cancun. Well, I don't think that hurts as much as you're thinking it does, Boston 3-2-3-3. I don't think that hurts as much. 8 teams are going to lose in the first round. And the Ottawa Senators had a really great push towards the playoffs to be able to make the playoffs. An insane run, really, to get to where they are. And they were beaten by a better team. Got another Canes fan here, says Brandon. Just lurking. Sens deserve full respect. No reason to troll them. It's okay, Brandon. Thanks for backing people up here, but this is not a show. I don't know if other shows are like this or not, but this is not a show that, like, we try and tell people honestly what we believe. And the Ottawa Senators they had some things working against them as far as injuries but I mean, Linus Ullmark was their best player in the series and they lost 4 straight. How many times is your goalie the best player in the series and you lose every game? Well, when only 2 guys, the entire series score goals. And none of them are named Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. And Jake Sanderson gets hurt. These aren't excuses. You said Carolina, that second period in this game was one of the best playoff periods I've watched in a long time. Really was. Because it's what Ottawa should have done either in game 3 or in game 2 or in game 1. And to really I think in game 1, they really needed to do something to let Carolina know that this was going to be this type of fight all series long. And they just didn't do that. Michael says, remember when the Sens thought they could bully the Canes? I don't remember any time that they thought that they could. But Brandon says Linus was an absolute wall. The Stankoven line just completely balled out in this series. But that's so, and Brandon's a Canes fan, but that's the point of when you are a deep, good team. Seth Jarvis, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, they didn't do a whole lot in this series. Like, at times they were invisible in this series. And that's because Ottawa's got a very good shutdown line themselves. But you need other people to step up in the playoffs. That's what it's all about. It's why Ottawa went out and got Warren Foegele to try to help with that. It just didn't work. But when your top guys aren't producing, so for both teams, I don't think Carolina's top line was offensively very dangerous at all. And then Ottawa's top line wasn't there either in Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and those guys. So then you got to get contributions from elsewhere. Stankoven's all over the place in this series. Taylor Hall is all over the place in this series. It's not even that they got the goals and the points. They were everywhere. Every time you turned around, Stankoven's finding an open spot. Ottawa didn't have that. They had the Pinto Amadio line shut down the top line, but then they needed somebody else to do it. And they didn't get it at all. And then the power plays, like Julian brings up. lack thereof was the story of the playoffs. There was never a point I thought they were in control. Carolina just played a much more mature game. Well, they're a deeper team and they understand. And Carolina's power play wasn't very good in this series either. Ottawa's PK was one of the reasons why they were able to keep games close. But in the final game, if you just told people, okay, Sens are down 3-0, but at home, they're going to have 9 power plays and they're going to go they're going to have 3 5-on-3s in the one game. You can't lose that game. Can't. And the 5-on-3s were almost downright embarrassing. They had 4 of them in the series and they never even looked close to scoring. Brandon says, I think to the Canes' benefit, we had a huge stretch of injuries early in the season, and it let the rest of the team gel without all the top guys there. So that's an interesting point, Brandon, because if you're a Canes fan, you've been following that team, you would know that, from the beginning of the season to the end, and other guys had to step up. So that's exactly what happened in Ottawa in the last couple of months. Jake Sanderson, gone. Thomas Chabot, gone. I mean, this team was playing with defensemen that if you're a Canes fan or if you're a person out of the Ottawa market, you would never have heard of. Never. Like Nick Mattampalo or Jordan Spence came up and played wonderfully for the last couple of months. He's going to get a big raise. But Tyler Clevin was in and out and became like a standard, became like, oh, I'm just going to play 25 minutes tonight because they have nobody else. They were bringing in Lassie Thompson, Dennis Gilbert, Cameron Crotty, Carter Yakimchuk. They all played playoff games. And if you don't follow the Ottawa Senators, you're like, who are these guys? I've never heard of these guys. And nor should you. Because the Belleville Sens weren't very good either. So, I think Ottawa did that, Brandon, and for everyone listening, they did that and it earned them a spot into the playoffs where this team was 14th in the conference in January. This team had to go 21-6-4 down the stretch to be able to make the playoffs. This team had to do so many things that outside of the market, you're like, it's not possible. It's not possible. And they got there. And in a couple of years to come, it will pay huge dividends, massive dividends. But it wasn't good enough to beat a team that has not lost a first round matchup in the playoffs in 8 consecutive years. Because the one that they lost in the COVID year was actually second, and COVID you kind of throw out anyway. The Carolina Hurricanes haven't lost a first round playoff series in 8 consecutive years. They've been in the playoffs every year and won in the first round every year. That's incredible. And teams do not have that sort of experience and depth to them. There's only a handful of teams that even come close to that and have some of that. And the NHL is a league like this. Brandon says, totally fair. I haven't seen much of y'all's coverage, so I'm ignorant to the news other than watching them in the standings. And that's the point. Like, I think if you're, and it's nice that you're a part of this, some Carolina Hurricane fans coming in, that it's nice that you're a part of it to say that, like, Ottawa had an incredible year because Linus Ullmark went away for a month and was one of the worst goalies in the league. In fact, I think he was the worst goalie in the league before he left on December 27th. At one point, the Senators were a league worst .865 save percentage and like 10 points behind the next team. The second worst was .875 and they had an .865. That's where they were. Like, they were one of the worst teams in the league. And they somehow found a way through bad goaltending in the first half and losing some of their top guys to make it here. The run they've had has been incredible. But they don't have the depth. They don't, and they needed everybody. They needed Sanderson healthy. They needed Chabot healthy. They needed Brady Tkachuk to have 8 points in this series and Tim Stützle to have 10 points in this series. And if they didn't get that, they weren't going to beat Carolina anyway. And they didn't. And I think there were some people in Ottawa that feel that this was a team that, boy, let's get Carolina because the Metro is easier, which we're finding out Philly's no joke. Philly's a really good team. And the path through the Metro is no easier than it is. You just, like you, Brandon, and other people, like you just see some of the teams that you play against all the time. So in Ottawa, we're very familiar with Montreal and Tampa and Buffalo and Boston. And you're not as familiar. You don't watch all the time the Penguins and the Flyers and the Canes. But when you watch that Carolina Hurricanes team, man, they're deep. They are deep, deep, deep. And when you are deep and you have experience, it's going to be really hard to beat. So from the Ottawa perspective, there's the Brady Tkachuk question. There's the Drake Batherson question of whether to extend him July 1st, because you kind of send a message if you don't reach out. But do you think Batherson deserves a big raise? He's only making 4.9 next year. And that also would be a really nice addition to a team for 4.9 million for next year. And then maybe an extension comes with him going somewhere else and you get some pretty good value back for Drake Batherson. Or is he a part of your core? You got to figure out at this point who is part of this team and who isn't. And you can't run it back with the same team. There needs to be some changes. Another scorer up front for sure. Probably a right shot D for sure. Insulation of your goaltending, no question, has to happen. So some big off-season decisions in Ottawa. But for Carolina, they can do it all. And that's a team that just needs to find a way to get a couple of goals at important times like they did in this series, and they could beat anybody. But the frustration for Canes fans would be, how do you do that in a conference final when you make it and not just bow out sheepishly like they have in the past couple of years in the conference final? But you go through Ottawa's players in this series and you think, okay, who is good? Who played at a playoff type level? Maybe not overachieved, but played to a level that you would expect a player to play in the playoffs. Who was that? Linus Ullmark? Considering the precedent that he set, that the bar was not very high, he probably overachieved. It's stunning to me that he was their best player in every game. Stunning. I think Thomas Chabot showed that he is a guy that it's not like he played great. He was forced to play a lot because he was so much better than everybody else on the ice when Sanderson was gone on the defense corps. But after breaking your arm and getting plates and screws in your arm a couple of weeks ago and coming back and playing like 30 minutes every night, Thomas Chabot still leads the NHL playoffs, leads the playoffs in ice time. Nobody has played more than Thomas Chabot for any team in any position. And that will change, like as far as minutes, but the average, yeah, it's only 4 games, but the average might not be beat all playoffs long. Because unless teams go into like a third and fourth overtime in a couple of games. Because Thomas Chabot, he probably was the player that was the closest. Drake Batherson had most of the important goals. I wouldn't say like fully skilled plays. The one he got tonight was a nice kind of deflection in front, being in the right spot. He got a couple of fortunate bounces for the other goals, but at least after what happened last year against the Leafs, where he was wearing the goat horns, he was playing at least to some level. I don't even know how to judge the third line in Shane Pinto, Mike Amadio, and some other players, depending on who, whether it was Nick Cousins, whether it was Fogle, like other guys that played on the line. That line played really well, shutting down the other team's top line, but they didn't do anything offensively, like nothing. Like in the first game, they had a 0 goals for expected. 0. That's almost impossible. So they certainly didn't overachieve. We know that Tkachuk and Stützle underachieved for their level. And Sanderson was, hurt in the middle of it. And I don't know. Ridley Gregg probably played, to me, the average, what you would want in a playoffs for his role. I don't think he underperformed. He didn't overperform, but I thought he was just there. And like at least somebody like, hey, what do you expect out of Ridley Gregg? Oh, okay. Yeah. If we're able to support him and have some other players. But Dylan Cousins, he scored tonight late. I know he got the other 2 goals other than Drake Batherson, but to me, he was a no-show. Never seemed dangerous. Zetterlund, you probably are doing anything you can to trade that guy and cut bait with him and clear up a spot. Claude Giroux, has he played his last game as an Ottawa Senator? That's another question. Maybe. Lars Eller probably has. But I just don't know that anybody overachieved. It's tough. I think for Sens fans, it's very, very difficult to swallow tonight. But at the same time, even the most staunch of Senator fans would never say that they were better than the Carolina Hurricanes and got screwed somehow. It's not possible. Injuries, underperforming, and just no answers for the waves that the Carolina Hurricanes come at you. And this is why you want to end series. Like, it was important for Carolina to win this because you can see Martinook, huge block in this game. He got banged up. You hope Nikishin's okay after the hit from Tyler Clevin, but he was hurt. They're going to need some time to rest before the next series, and they'll probably get a week. What's your final word on this? Like, as a Senator fan, it's sinking in right now that you are maybe not as close as you thought that you were. At least that's my opinion. It might not be yours. But where are you here an hour after the game? Where are you in your, like, are you still angry for the way that this one played out? Are you mad thinking that the power play could, if they were just better on the power play, they could have been back in this series and they possibly could have won it? Did this series, did the way the Sens played down the stretch give you hope? I'll tell you, it did for me. And it didn't from, like, in a playoff series that I never thought they were going to win. Never thought they were going to beat Carolina. But the last couple of months, the way that they had to play with all of the injuries showed to me what is possible under Travis Green when everybody buys in to what's capable. I think there was probably a foundation set, this series aside, at what's possible if you play the right way and play the way Travis Green wants you to play, and they can stay relatively healthy. Every team goes through injuries, but they showed through massive injuries that they were able to have one of the best records in the league. Like, literally from January 25th, only the Dallas Stars had a better record in the league than Ottawa. And so they did something special to get to where they are right now. Special. And I think Julian, this is a reasoned take. I will say I did not expect Ottawa to get swept, but at no point did I see them winning. Yeah, I think that's probably to me too. Like, did I expect them to win a game or two? Yes, I did. But I never thought that they would win the series. Like, I don't know if they deserved to win game two, but they were close to winning game two, is how I would describe it. And that would have changed some things, especially with the dud that they laid in game three. And that is that, other than the power play, the dud they laid in game three, just huge. Had nothing. In a game coming home after a couple of days off, after being really, really close in game number two, they came back and had nothing in game three. And that to me is exactly where the series was lost. They were still not out of the series. If they matched the energy in game three that they had tonight and found a way to win game three because of the power plays, it could have extended this series into like where Julian's saying, where I'm thinking, like in that 6 or even possibly 7 game series. But when they laid the egg, I think if you're honest with yourself, you look back on that and go, that's something that cannot happen in the playoffs, no matter what. And game one wasn't great either. But 5 goals in 4 games. And to be honest, I know they scored with a minute 47 to go, and it kind of gave them a chance. But not necessarily kind of where they wanted to be. It's tough, man. It's really, really tough because there's so many questions from an Ottawa Senators perspective. And those questions are big time questions. Like, those questions involve their captain. Those questions involve like a top 1 or 2 line player in Drake Batherson. Those questions involve the goaltending. Like, major parts of this team is where the questions come. The depth and the experience that was gained by what felt like playoff games in the last 2 months from the aforementioned, Spences and Matt and Palos and Clevens and Gilberts and Cameron Crotty and Carter Yakimchuk. And I mean, you go through how many people have been in the lineup. Lassie Thompson on defense. And you're like, that's a lot. Not going to win like that, but those guys are going to be better players because of it. They're going to be much better players because of it. And where does that leave you with your evaluations going into next year? But the big questions become the captain, another top line player in Drake Batherson, and the goalie. That's where the real questions come and where you're going to go in the future with your team. There are other questions. Yes. Do you need a right shot D? Do you need another top scorer for Tim Stützle? Like, all of those things. But the questions that are currently on your team right now are Brady and Drake Batherson and Linus Ullmark. The guys who are there that you are expecting to do things with, and are you going to move forward with all of those guys? 2 of 3 of those guys, none of those guys. Those are some of the questions you have to ask. And I'm hoping Steve Staios is a pretty methodical guy. I'm hoping that they've already thought about what they're going to do. And I don't expect them to tell us, but I do expect them to have very serious discussions with all 3 of those guys. Like, where is the future? What do you want to do as an organization surrounding those players with those contracts? Because every situation is individual for sure. The last couple of months have been an amazing ride for the Ottawa Senators. An amazing ride. It just came up against a better team in the playoffs, and it immediately stopped. It's almost crazy to think that the game one was 8 days ago, and now it's over. The abruptness of it all. It just, as much work as it took to get to the end, it took so much work. And then they get here, and it's 8 days and 4 games, and goodbye. And that's way back. There was a question I know James talked about. Is it part of the maturing process? Part of the maturing process is realizing, and this wasn't all their fault. They got really crappy goaltending, like brutal, awful goaltending for the first half of the year. And I don't know sometimes what you can do about that. You can learn from it as a management, but you're like, it's almost impossible to think that you were going to get the worst goaltending in the league by a lot in the first half of the year. So if you don't get that, then things change. But if you do get that and you're able to sort of understand that the team fought back through it, you'd probably look at this as a step forward and a successful year. It just, people will judge the end and not worry about like the 30 games that you basically won and got points in like 25 of the 30 games, 26 of the 30 games to get to the playoffs. They won't remember that. You will as an organization, but people from the outside won't. They'll remember you got there and you got swept, and the captain and Stützle and your big players didn't do anything. But the maturing part of this goes from not putting yourself in the hole to begin with, because Carolina was cruising out front all year long. And we're very prepared for this because they were cruising out front all year long. And they didn't have to exhaust every single, like, what Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson would have left is like nothing right now. Sometimes we think they're superhuman because they look like it, but what they would have had left if they won this series anyway. You don't exhaust yourself in the first half of the year to have to get to a point where you need points in 26 of your last 30 games to be able to make the playoffs. That's where the maturing part comes in. And then the other part that you just have to, as an organization, you have to provide the depth necessary to get through stretches of injuries. And I don't know that the team did that very well. And they kind of got bailed out by the coaching staff with just an incredible design and play to be able, because they didn't have any depth on defense. Their defense in the American Hockey League was awful. And they had to bring those guys up because they had no other choice. And they had no answer for Levi Merrilainen being bad. And so they had to sign James Reimer off the couch. Well, that's not, like, the management should be held responsible for that. They need to be better in those regards and provide more depth for some of the guys around them. But inside that room with the people who are going to be a part of this team going forward, and I don't know if that includes Brady Tkachuk. I don't know if that includes everyone that's in that locker room right now. We know that some of the older guys, expiring contracts, Giroux and Eller, guys on defense that you wouldn't expect to be here, like Dennis Gilbert. Nick Cousins is probably another guy you could probably do without and find somebody else. But like, the experience with the guys who did have, like, be a part of the run to get to the playoffs is real good. It's going to really help them. And there'll be some outside noise about how they finished, but in the room, they'll know that probably did as much as they possibly could. Now it's up to the management to provide some better players and some more depth to the team. Okay, another comment. Brady trade request chance is greater than 0%. I would agree. I also think that the ability for the team to say your value is at its highest right now, and we could probably change the way that we go, what directions we go because of that trade. I think from the management side, that last comment from A. Urquhart, 90, I think is greater than 0 on both sides. And if it's greater than 0, it might mean it's 5%. But if it's 5% on each side, and now we're kind of like there's a thought, even if it's in the back of your mind on both sides, maybe, just maybe. It's a conversation you have to have. Whether, like, what results from the conversation, don't know. But you have to have the conversation. Have to. You don't think the Leafs, I know people make fun of the Leafs all the time. You don't think the Leafs are going to have conversations with the people that they hire about trading Austin Matthews with 2 years left on his deal? And you don't think Austin Matthews is like, well, I stayed. You've provided nothing around me. I get hurt. Nobody comes to my defense. I'm out of here. Like, maybe he wants out. I think both situations are less or more than 0%, less than 100% on both sides. And another Canes fan, that a Urquhart 90 says, honestly, no easy win for the Canes. The Sens group reminds me of where we were a couple of years ago. And yeah, I think Sens fans are still disappointed, but it is a compliment. When another team beats you and says, like, oh, it wasn't easy. Like, yeah, we watched the games. It wasn't easy for them. But Carolina is used to playing in those games. There was never a fear. They never trailed in the series. So while it wasn't easy, there wasn't a worry, I don't think, from a Carolina perspective. He says, with some luck for a healthy squad and some playoff experience, I see some deep runs. But that's the point. And that's the point for the Canes too. And we're not going to turn this into a Carolina Hurricane show. But the point for the Canes is not to get past Ottawa in round one. You've got past 8 consecutive years in round one. And sometimes you get to the conference finals and you can't even win a hockey game, let alone 4 games in that. And that's not to make fun of them. It's about, okay, you've been in that situation before. How do you learn for that to provide experience so that you can get over that hump? And the humps are different for teams at the levels. And I think that's what you're saying, is that, look, Carolina needs to go to another level to win the Stanley Cup. They need to be a little bit different than they've been before, because the way that they've been doing it have not won the Stanley Cup. They haven't got to the Stanley Cup. They flame out in the conference finals, so they need to get to a different level. But that's up here, and Ottawa's now come up into this playoff discussion, but they need to find a way to get up into the next tier. And even if that next tier is like round 2, or where Carolina's getting to in round 3, and it's not necessarily the Stanley Cup, you got to find a way to get to the next level. And that does come with a little bit of luck and health and playoff experience and all those things. But it also comes with the management having a plan to make sure that some of your players are supported. And that's what I see in Carolina. I see that in a series where if you just looked on paper, and we watch at the Olympics and all that stuff, and you look at Seth Jarvis, you look at Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho, you're like, oh my God, that's a crazy good line. Like, those players are so good. What did they do in this series? Nothing. Like, Seth Jarvis was one of the more invisible top guys. Like, he's right in where Brady Tkachuk was and Tim Stützle was. Like, I didn't really notice him at all. And Aho got a couple of goals here and there, but he wasn't a difference maker. Svechnikov was not a difference maker. But the difference is providing and knowing, okay, where can we fit in? Taylor Hall, where can we fit in? I loved in this game, I loved when William Carrier went over and told Blake, like, don't worry, whatever's happening with this Fogle guy, I got him. He literally shoved him out of the way. And man, did I love that. That's like, your guys have each other's back. Like, they're in this together. It's like, don't worry about it, Blake. I got this. And even Svechnikov. When Tyler Kleven laid the big hit, and it was a clean hit, and I hope Nikishin's okay, Kleven needs to do that to be a dominant and take the next step as a defenseman. But Svechnikov was on him pounding fists, and he got the extra penalty, and he should have. He deserved the extra penalty. He deserved it. But he was like on the ground, haymakers to Tyler Kleven. Svechnikov, top star. Other teams would be begging their top stars to have each other's backs like that. He saw a guy go down. Austin Matthews would be crying to the rooftops to have anybody care about him when he was lying on the ice when he got knee on knee with Radko Gudas, for anybody to care the way that Svechnikov cared about Nikishin. And that comes with bonding, that comes with experience, that comes with, teams not like failing, but staying together and making sure that they get to the next level. Those two things I loved in this game. Man, did I love them. Because it showed this team has each other's backs. And you'd be surprised at some of the other teams that don't, right? Like when Jake Sanderson took, whether it was a clean shot or not, or Taylor Hall didn't get suspended, there's more talk here in Ottawa than there was, I think, around the league. But regardless, he got checked to the head. Kind of feel like somebody should have done something right there. They didn't. And Urquhart says, yeah, agreed with all of it there. No problem with the hit, but as a fan, zero problem taking the extra two, and your buddy gets, that's standing up for your guys. That's what you need to do. You have to do that. Have to. And that's why Carolina, they're just at a different level right now. And they're trying to get to the top tier of being a Stanley Cup team, trying to get to where the Florida Panthers were. They're trying to get, Colorado's trying to get to that spot. Dallas and Minnesota are trying to get to that spot. There's tiers in this league about team skill and where they are. Yeah, there can be some Cinderella runs here and there, but teams are trying to get there. Ottawa's not there yet. But have they set a foundation this year to get there? And now it's the management's job to raise that next level? Yes. Have to. Because if they go in stagnant, if they go in the same, expecting that just this experience alone is going to make them better, it's not. You have to Tom Cruise it. You got to make all the right moves. Maybe even some of the people listening will get the reference. Younger crowd sometimes here. But you can't win a series when Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle don't have a goal. And you get 5 goals in 4 games. And the Dylan Cousins goal at the end, down 3-1 with the empty net, or the goaltender pulled, like, I guess I count it, but I don't really. They scored 1 goal a game. You're just not going to beat anybody scoring 1 goal a game. Well, we're going to be back on OSN. We appreciate some of the Carolina people jumping in. And kudos. It's a good team. And I think even Ottawa fans know it's a good team. Senator fans are worried about their own team right now and some of the holes and the warts that they have, but everyone in Ottawa, like, for all of the people that are listening and will listen to this, all of the Ottawa fans know that Carolina is a really good team and we're the better team in this series. It's just going down in 4 straight games when you had to work so hard to get here, and the abrupt ending is just, it's tough. It is really, really tough for fans. So, Well, I want to thank everybody for listening. We'll have a lot more coming up on This is OSN as far as shows coming up this week. We're going to have some NFL draft stuff. We'll have more on the fallout from the end of the Ottawa Senators season. And we'll have our great watch-along parties there. If you go to the site, This is OSN. If you're watching in, former NHLer Brad Brown was by, told some great stories about his time in the NHL and former first round pick of the Montreal Canadiens, and he was cheering against them against Tampa Bay. And we're going to continue to do that with some of the other nights in NHL playoff action. Just because the Senators are out doesn't mean that we are going anywhere. We are just getting started here on OSN. So this is the beginning of something that's going to be real good, and we're very appreciative of everybody tuning in. And want to say thank you for everybody. Tanner doing a lot of the on-air work, not here today with the Ottawa Senators, and will continue to do so. Zach McGibbon, but Le Champion, Chris Thompson, Ben Soublier, Steve McKenzie, Eric Dubik, and some of the other people that have helped out a lot. And then, Julian's been incredible, and Ethan and James and all the people that have been regulars here as we get this thing going. If I forgot, Marley Man and PJ and the real Kim Moore have been outstanding as well. My God, have they been outstanding. But lots of people have contributed to kind of the beginning of this. And like I said, promise you, we're just getting started with all of this on This is OSN. So for Zach tonight, and for Senator fans, don't know when we come back on and we do some other games, we'll find out what other teams you're cheering for. I don't think it'll be Montreal, but we'll figure it out. I don't think it'll be Carolina after losing in 4 straight to the Hurricanes, but we'll figure out who it is, and we'll be continuing on from there. So we thank you for being a part of it. And for Zach, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks for being with us on This is Overtime for the end of the season on the Ottawa Senators.